Without a dedicated place to put my phone at night, it sometimes ends poorly. So, I fixed that. Along with a place to put my watch and my glasses. I'm going to show you how I did it with a little time in the shop. Welcome to the White Lab Workshop. I'm Brent, and I've got a fun little project to share with you. This one started when I got a smartwatch for Christmas for my kids and found my nightstand starting to get pretty cluttered at night. I originally started by coming up with a plan that would give all my stuff a place. But then, I had the good fortune to win this wireless charging stand for my phone at my company's Christmas party and made some minor modifications to incorporate it. I started with some pre-milled walnut 3/4 inch thick by 4 inches wide. To get the dimensions, I played around with positioning everything and made some marks. I wanted to make things interesting by routing out a tray for my glasses and putting some sort of padding in it. I figured it would be easier to route this tray out before I cut the board to length because I could use the full length of it for clamping. I'm not brave enough to route this sort of thing freehand, so I used the router's guide and added stop blocks to get the perimeter routed out. Once I had the perimeter, I felt more comfortable freehanding the rest of it. Some cleanup with a chisel helps smooth the bottom out. I didn't need it perfect since it would be at least partially covered up. With the tray taken care of, I could go ahead and cut it to length. It's always a good idea to check your saw settings before you make your cut. You never know when you may forget to reset it back to 0 after leaving it on the 3-degree setting, and it'd be a shame to have to do it again. I'm not sure what made me think to mention this, just a tip I guess. I also cut a shorter piece for the watch stand parts. And ripped it down into 2 pieces 1.5 inches wide. Positioning the watch was kind of an eyeballing thing, but I realized pretty quickly that 30 degrees from vertical looked pretty good, so I used my triangle to help lay it out. to the miter saw to make the cuts. The saw would need to be set to 30 degrees for both of them, but the piece needs to move around a bit. If you like what you see so far, consider subscribing to the channel and joining us on this woodworking journey. To get ready for the mortises, I marked out the center lines and the boundaries. Then I took them to the drill press with a Forstner bit to clear out most of the material. A chisel was perfect to finish cleaning them up. Next, I used the mortises to size the tenons and mark them with a razor blade. That gives a little more precision than a pencil. I've got this awesome tenoning jig that makes cutting tenons a breeze. But a shop-made tenoning jig would work well for this too. After cutting the tenon thicknesses, I brought the crosscut sled out to cut the shoulders. I did end up needing to clean up the shoulders a bit because my two cuts on the table saw didn't quite line up exactly. And since my mortises were rounded at the end, I rounded the tenons too. It tends to be easier to round the tenons than it is to square up the mortises, at least in my opinion. Since I made these tenons fit so nicely into the mortises, I had to figure out something else to mess up on. So I decided that cutting the tenons too long would be a good mistake to make. The cool thing, I didn't even have to plan to do that, it just happened. My favorite part of woodworking videos is seeing others make mistakes too, and seeing how they fix them. So this is just me doing my part to share that. Back to the crosscut table to trim those tenons down a bit. Look at that fit. Things are coming along nicely. The watch arm is still too long, so I use the crosscut table to cut it to length. And to make the wireless phone stand look a little more integrated, I decided to use my dado stack to clear out some of the material for it to sit in. Next up, I needed to cut a recess for the watch charging unit. This would have been really easy if I had an 1.1/8" Forstner bit. Unfortunately, the closest I could get was a 1-inch bit, so I used that and chiseled out the rest. Then I used a chisel to cut a groove for the power cable. To pad the tray for my glasses, I used some shelf liner. All of your patience has finally paid off. Here's the moment I'm pretty sure you've all been waiting for. Sanding time. With the best part of the project behind us, we're on the downhill slope. Time to glue this thing together. I opted to use shellac for this thing. I'd never used shellac before, and I figured a small project that only I would use is a good candidate for testing. It turned out pretty well. This project is cool because I use it every day, which usually isn't the case for things I've made. And it really wasn't all that difficult to make. I got to work with Walnut for the first time, and I do have to say, I now know why so many people like to work with it. It was a pleasure. Tell us how we did in the comments, and hit that thumbs up button if you think we've earned it. I've queued up some other videos on the screen that you might like as well. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.